everybody. Welcome to the Game Ready Technology Future Report. Today is our first episode. It is January 13th, 2024. It's a new year. We're going to be doing these periodically, and we're going to be releasing them on YouTube for all of you to view. For those of you who are new to the podcast and have never seen this before, we haven't either. It's our first episode. We are Game Ready Technology. We're the two members of the company and also the co-founders. And what we do is pretty simple. As you can see behind us, we do pre-built computers. We also specialize in communities and connecting people, and we're just here to share with you some of our observations and the things that we've really enjoyed and are passionate about in the new technological advances that we're going to be coming out this year and what we've kind of noticed and observed over the last couple of months. So that's what this is going to be. It's going to be about 15 to 20 minutes long, and we're going to be releasing them on a bi-weekly basis. So starting off, we have some information about the new monitors that are coming out in the next year, next 12 months, and what to expect from them. So Aiden, take it away.
So we have our quantum dot LED displays. These are brand new. They're not out yet, but there are production starting for them. MSI is releasing 3 QLED displays. They're also OLED, so like a mix of technologies in there. There is a 27 variant, a 27-inch variant, a 32-inch variant, and a 49-inch variant. Those will all be
Is the 49-inch a wide? Is that a widescreen?
I'm not 100% sure. There wasn't any information specifically on that.
Huh.
They're all flat screens, so none of them are curved. And the 27-inch is going to be 2560 by 1440 at a ratio of 16 by 9. I think all of them are 16 by 9.
All of them. That's a really chubby display.
Yeah,
49.
that is.
I mean, that's.
It's almost like a TV, honestly.
I mean,
pretty
yeah,
much
50 inch. That's about the size of a TV.
Yeah. So some of the key things about this display is its incredibly low response time. It runs at about 0.03 milliseconds response time, which is absolutely insane. It doesn't get better than that. Right now
human
it's the best.
perception is about that much as is. I mean, that's a human reaction time.
Yeah, and we're talking like we used to be at like 1. I think the lowest we've seen is 0.5 milliseconds of response time. This is actually cutting that in like
hundredths.
Yeah, hundredths. We're actually seeing like this is the biggest advancement in response time that we've seen in monitors.
Beyond generational at this
Exactly.
point. It's ridiculous.
We also are seeing a huge color palette upgrade with 1.07 billion colors displayed, which is absolutely insane. We've got 10-bit color depth, and the lowest refresh rate is 360 hertz.
So would I be right in making the observation there that we're at the point where a gaming monitor can very easily also just be a studio/editing monitor at that color palette?
Yeah, at this color palette, I would believe so. I'm not an editor. I mean, I've done my fair share of editing, but I am not.
I
don't
also
really
don't have
pay
the
attention
money
to
for the
colors.
monitors that they're selling. So
Yeah.
if any of you have a $5,000 Apple ProRes monitor, please send it my way. I'll make good use of it, but I don't have the budget for it. That's awesome. So is it just MSI releasing these monitors, or are there other companies?
So as far as I've seen, MSI is the only one releasing them right now. But rest assured, all of the other companies will be very close
I'll be
behind.
following suit.
It's not a patented technology as far as I'm aware.
Is MSI actually manufacturing the panels, or are they coming from another brand like
That
Sony
is-
or
I could not
LG,
tell you that.
Samsung?
This is pretty much all the information I've gotten is just the specs. I don't know where they come from. I don't know if it's patented. I'm pretty sure it's not because about 4 years ago, like I wrote a paper about it. So I know a lot of information about the LEDs themselves. And as far as I know, MSI weren't the ones that created it.
So how about we talk about that then? So what is quantum dot and why is it better?
So a quantum dot LED is basically just a very, very small LED. As you can see from the color palette, it is very variable. So there's 100 or 1.07 billion colors that can be displayed from these, which is basically just a difference of frequency, voltage, and amplitude for all of the different colors that you can get from it. Also, another cool feature is that it can be folded onto itself without breaking. So that could be cool in different folding technologies if we're going to have another folding phone that might come from these. But pretty much all I've gotten is they're very small, and it can create very high resolution, and they're pretty much instant in its response time, as we can see from the 0.03.
So that begs the question, how long until it goes from these larger monitor form factors till it becomes something that you can hold in the palm of your hand? That's really the big question.
Yeah, I'm really hoping we see this stuff in phones soon, because phones right now, like, there are super high resolution phones. You can barely see the pixels on the newer phones. Imagine what we could have with these.
I mean, it'll fix the durability concerns with phones like the Fold, the Google Fold, the Samsung the Fold as well. I think they both are called the Fold. The
Flip.
There's that the Flip is the Flip is the vertical. They also have the Fold as well.
Yeah, but there's the Flip that comes down and the Fold that goes
in. They all have that creasing issue as well. So this will probably fix that. But that also makes a really good point to an extent when you think about like how manufacturers are going to try to practically implement it like cars. Because every single time there's a new touchscreen technology or display technology, they try to put it into cars, like the holographic displays for speedometers. What are they going to do with like the dashboards of cars now, considering these things are going to end up becoming a lot more durable? Only time will tell, right?
Yep.
All right. So with that in mind, with now technological advancements and changing graphics, improvements in resolution, obviously you need better graphics cards. So we have new graphics cards on the way. Aiden's going to take it away with our NVIDIA leak for the Pro Scene. So what's going on at NVIDIA right now?
So we have the new RTX 5880 GPU. It's an ADA card, ADA. It's not out yet, but they've unveiled it. So I believe that will be coming. I don't remember when the launch date is.
I really don't know.
It should be very soon, because they don't like to unveil things too far from launch, as far as I'm aware. This is mostly designed for rendering and 3D modeling. It's more of like just a studio card. It has 14,080 CUDA cores, which is absolutely insane.
How many does the 4090 have? Because I kind of want a point of reference.
I'm not sure.
Let me see. Because it says...
Try and grab that from
I'm actually going to look. Yeah, I'm going to look.
I'll continue with this.
Yeah.
It's likely to have a 2,481 megahertz boost clock, which is ludicrous. Yet again, I don't really have a comparison for the 4090 or from the 4090,
and that's
but
2461. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Because the 4090, well, they're talking about the 4090D that's coming out, which is like it's like the inverse of a TI. Basically, it's like just a little bit worse.
A little bit worse. Okay.
Which I really don't think is super great, but I mean, that's NVIDIA for you. They're saying for the CUDA core, because it actually revealed the CUDA count of the original 4090, 16,384.
Okay, so this is just below that with 2,000 less.
2,000 less.
Yep.
But it has nearly double the VRAM, if not double the VRAM.
So that's my next point. It has a whopping 48 gigabytes of VRAM, GDDR6.
Pretty sure GDDR6X.
No, it's GDDR6.
Just 6.
I thought that it was 6X, but I was wrong. But not only that, but it's on a 384-bit memory bus.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that we're going to have some very, very high speeds here. And it has a 14K shader cores.
Sheesh.
Yep.
So it's basically just what you would buy if you were doing SolidWorks.
Yeah, it's a glorified 4090 that's like not as good in some areas, but it's because it's so focused. It's only studio.
It's just specialized.
It's just specialized in some areas to make it just that much better for rendering and 3D modeling. Probably a lot of artwork as well.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. So on the topic of the 40 series and obviously this upcoming RTX 5880, for those of you who might be a little bit more interested in the gaming side, they are unveiling the supers right now. So that's present day. It's going to be in the next few weeks. So what we've found, this is an article from Digital Trends. What they're saying is, if I can get back to this article, it says that they're going to be releasing them over the course of January, starting with, if I can find it, I just had it up. Let me see, pricing and availability. So it's going to be the 17th with the new 4070, and then the
17th of what?
The 17th of January. So this month.
Oh wow.
Yep. And then the 4070 Ti Super on the 24th, which is just a complete mashup of the old naming scheme, but supposedly it's a lot better. They've increased the VRAM count, the core count. There's no confirmed amount that is, but I'm hoping 16 gigs because that's what we've been needing from NVIDIA.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the 4080 Super on the 31st. So the last day of January, you're going to get a 4080 Super. What NVIDIA is doing here with the 4080 Super, which kind of caught my attention, is they're going to be fixing the pricing of this line. Because I noticed when they first really released the 40 series, it kind of came off as a sour event because they tried to do two variants of the card, one of them being significantly more cut down than the other, which is not what people were used to.
Yeah.
And they were basically essentially selling what ended up being a 4070 Ti as a 4080 with the same price tag at $1,200 for the better, and then I think $1,099 for the worst.
Yeah, that caused a lot of controversy.
Which, that naturally did, because it's just they're moving up products up a stack that they really shouldn't be.
Yeah, they're
moving.
trying to just charge more for the same product as last year.
Which makes sense because the 50 series, the 30 series don't have a great reputation, but also don't really make the company that much money from what it seems. So it would make sense they're going to try to keep that premium market in high demand and in high cost. So, but with that being said, the new 4080 Super, it's going to come out and it's going to move the price of the 4080 normal down to $1,000. So if you're buying it new, you'll save yourself $200. So thanks, NVIDIA. Appreciate it. You're very late, but thank you. And then the new 4080 Ti will launch at the same launch price as the original 4080. So basically, if you bought a 4080 at launch day, you are kind of getting screwed over right now. In fairness, we all saw this coming because this is what every RTX release does.
Yep.
3090 versus the Ti, etc. So nothing
that's
too
pretty
surprising.
Pretty much what happens every year.
Yep.
So.
Every 2 to 3 years at this point.
Whatever launch.
Yeah. So with that being said as well, NVIDIA themselves are kind of taking this release kind of at an odd footing because their own metrics that have been, added to their website to accompany this new release don't quite reflect exactly what the cards are capable of. And we do this as a business. It's kind of been what our passion has been for the last 3 years. We've really devoted time to making these systems. And one of the things that we're very upfront about is what our computers can actually do. And one of the things that we don't appreciate is when a company will put artificial benchmarks or scores in very specific scenarios that don't make sense. So
yeah, especially they're just comparing their own product to their own product, which makes no sense.
So cherry picking,
give us some benchmarks for actual benchmarks of other people's products, things you want to compare to, not your own stuff. And that's very similar to Apple. Mm-hmm. And on the topic of Apple and phones, we've got our S24 and the S24 Ultra coming out soon. So moving away from computers, let's pick it up with the S24. You want to take it away?
Sure. So what we know about the S24, we say this on the topic of Apple because this is their competition, realistically. Yeah. What we know so far is the megapixel count for the camera is going to stay the same, but they're changing the camera. So a lot of people noted that in the known releases, every one of them have included that the 10 times telephoto lens is going to be replaced with a 5 times.
Yep.
And many people said, less zoom equals less better. And that in some cases is true. But what they're trying to do is actually double the megapixel count of this new 5 times camera.
Exactly.
So that way, if you need to do digital zoom on it, the output quality will still be very much the same.
So much better.
And they're hoping that people will use that 5 times more than the 10 times, and it'll make up for its lack of zoom with more versatile use cases.
Yeah. So instead of it just being strictly for zoom, you can use it in a lot more cases.
Exactly.
Because realistically, this is really good for like portraits and stuff. If you want to take pictures of people, the 5 times is where you want to be. If you're using it 10 times for that, you've got to be 200 feet away for it to be a good picture. And like a lot of people don't know, the further you zoom in from the 3x to the 5x, that's a better jump.
Yes.
If you're further away, you're going to get a better quality picture just because of the camera swap.
Especially as well if you're doing videography or if you're doing videoing on these cameras and you switch between the 3 and the 5 when you live while recording, it's a lot less of a jump going from a 3 to a 10.
Yeah.
3 to a 5 from a 3 to a 10. So
exactly.
There's more versatile use cases.
Not only that, but you're going to see a visible change in the quality just because of the focal length, of the actual lens itself.
And overall, we expect better processing as well. This is just Samsung's normal generational jump.
Yep.
It's going to be a little bit less than what it's been in the past, but that's every single brand right now.
Yep.
So right now, there's not many.
There's the document if you want to look at it.
Yeah. So a couple
2.
of other things too. Obviously, new Snapdragon. That's going to be what you expect from the Ultra series.
Yeah.
They're cutting the 128 gigabyte base model from the product stack. So that's important because when the 22 and 23 Ultras both dropped, you were incentivized to pay more for that next step up.
Yeah.
To get the additional 4 gigabytes of RAM. So they kind of gate-kept the better performance under a paywall, and people didn't appreciate that, so they've removed that.
And this model has 12 gigs of RAM.
Correct. It's 12 across the board.
Yeah,
which is how
that's
it should
insane. That's great for phones. Like you're not going to use 12 gigs of RAM.
Yep. The display, you're getting a variable refresh rate display, 120 hertz max refresh, and then
all the way down to
one to conserve battery. So it's pretty good. Finally, we're on 22 Ultras. Ours only got on to 24, so good to have slight improvement there. Same massive 5,000 milliamp hour battery.
Insane.
It'd be nice if it was a little bigger, but because of this S Pen taking up storage, I'd imagine that's part of the reason.
Yeah,
why.
I would assume just because that's right in that little compartment where the S Pen goes, that's right where the battery would extend. So I'd assume we could get another 1,000 milliamp hours out of it if we didn't have the S Pen. But I love the S Pen.
Me too. Titanium body. This is another decision by Samsung that some people didn't like based on the concerns for durability on the iPhone 15 Pro.
Yeah,
and
well,
Pro Max.
so the difference between them is the iPhone Pro and Pro Max, they actually removed the titanium chassis, like the actual bracket on the inside. So it was just a titanium outline around the phone. The body itself was titanium, but they removed the little bracket on the inside.
Right.
This does not have that durability problem. So that's
we don't know that because it hasn't released yet, but we're hoping that it's the same.
As far as I know, they didn't change any structural integrity of the phone.
Well, they did. So let me get to that. The next thing with the display is it's flat this time.
Oh, there's no rounding.
No rounding corners. So the 23 reduced the rounding from the 22 Ultra, but the 24 Ultra is just completely flat.
Okay.
So what that means for any consumers out here who are going to be buying it, upgrading through your carrier, screen protectors and cases are going to be replaced. But most importantly, you can actually do full glass screen protectors now for maximum protection instead of using film.
That is the biggest nightmare of the 22 Ultra. Is just that screen protector is a pain. It's not the greatest quality. I mean, you can get some pretty good screen protectors, but none of them are as good as the straight glass. Because with those rounded corners, it just makes it a nightmare, especially because the dust that can get in the sides if it doesn't seal perfectly.
And if it's in your pocket all day long, you got the lint that peels the corners up. It's just not a good experience. And if you're drawing with the S Pen for charts, data, the curved corner makes it difficult to actually get the full use of your screen. So it's good that they're changing that. I actually wanted this change. Some people said it makes the phone look less premium, which I agree. I think the phone looks better as an Edge. It always looked better with an Edge all the way back when they said, oh, we're making an S6 Edge. I was like, that is a premium looking phone.
Yeah, it looks amazing, and it feels amazing in the hand.
But practicality.
Yeah. There's only so many practical things you can use when you've got the Edge.
Yeah. And the Edge at the time had the selling point that your notifications would live on the Edge. So you could see it when it was like flat on a table. But truthfully, no one really seems to take advantage of it. They just used it conventionally.
Yeah, I did not even know that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think they've come around finally and decided this is just not
It's a gimmick. Let's be honest. It looks professional, but it's still a gimmick.
Yeah, and I mean, they've definitely taken a more squared off trend in the last 3 years. Since the 21 Ultra, they've removed all kinds of rounding and they've really squared off the phones. I think it's a fine look. The phone definitely looks a lot different. Like the profile is altered now.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen any of the pictures of the S24.
Yeah, a lot of people actually tend to use the 23 pictures for the 24 because there's not enough confirmation of the colors yet.
Okay.
Which, whatever.
Apparently, there's a lot of colors on the new variations too.
Hey, hopefully we can actually get our hands on them because I like my white S22 Ultra, but I would have liked magenta. So
yeah, I got the Phantom Black because
can't go wrong.
Gotta love it.
So that's the high end, more like premium consumer phone but there's actually some heat cooking up on the more budget side, coming from
Yeah.
Motorola specifically. You actually did some research on this. So
Yes,
what's
I
going
did.
on?
The Moto G34 5G, that's coming out soon. It's got the new Snapdragon 650 or 695. It's got that new chipset. This is coming from Indian Express. It's got the IPS LCD, 120 hertz refresh rate. That's insane. From a budget phone, we used to see 60 hertz all the time. 60 hertz was just your normal phone, but now we're actually seeing 120, which is super exciting because coming from somebody who
What are
doesn't
they
have
asking for it? Do we have a U.S. price available for this phone yet?
I have to open this quickly. 1 second. This also has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 18 watt fast charging, which is pretty nice. Especially, again, it's a budget phone. Let me just find the pricing.
I remember when they did the Motorola, the whole line of 5G phones this last year, because I actually sold them for a while, and people really enjoyed the Moto G stylus, especially. That was a really big seller because they gave you a stylus. It was like a 4,800 milliamp hour battery, and they would sell it, at least here in the US, we were selling it for $240 at one point. So 90 hertz display, you were getting a full package. So I expect this to probably be the same thing, just obviously a bit, generationally improved. But
I can't seem to find a price on this. I had it up at one point, but
let me see if I can't track it down really quick.
Yeah.
It's a G34 5G, right?
Yes. So I've got just this random website. It's called Tech Somewhere. I don't know its credibility, but it says that it's got a suggested affordable price, leaked suggested affordable price of $159 USD. Coming from, like, we were just talking about the S24 Ultra. That is $1,200 starting price. So if we can see something that is not that much worse, it doesn't have
of the price is ridiculous.
It doesn't have as good of a camera. It's got a 50 megapixel main camera, so it's not as good in the camera department. But starting at $159, if that is a legitimate price, that is insane. Especially we've got the same battery size. I don't know how it treats battery because I've personally never had a Motorola, so I don't know if it's got the as good back end.
It also depends on how much power that 695 pulls, because that's everything right there. Is how that chip behaves battery wise. 5G is a killer of battery. A lot of people turn it off because of the actual implications with how it kind of increases the battery draw overall.
Yep.
This whole entire thing with this phone being available, and if it's actually, we could say with a mild amount of surety that it's going to be at least like in the $200 ballpark.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I find that interesting that you can get this much out of that little, because it kind of piggybacks on what some of the other YouTubers I've watched in the last couple of years have mentioned about how when you really want the premium phone, the premium feel, you already get 90% of it in the used market. You just have to tweak the rest of the things to your liking. But then for the extra premium price, you get that last 10% of things, be it the S Pen or some of the AI features or the Apple Silicon, if you're doing any of the processing with that, or the camera quality. It's interesting to see it because it kind of shows that now in the more, the last 3 years even, that you can pretty much get like flagship performance for significantly less.
Yeah, and so an interesting, just another thing to add on, they save money definitely on the Face ID reader because there's no Face ID. It's a side-mounted fingerprint sensor, which is a lot of people actually prefer that to Face ID and the mid-screen thumbprint. So it's got the side-mounted fingerprint sensor. It also still has the micro SD expansion slot up to 512 gigs. So that coming in at like...
So how much internal storage does it have?
128. It starts at 128, and it has 8 gigabytes of RAM.
That is very reasonable.
Yeah. And like... This might actually convince me to get a Motorola when this drops.
It's like a secondary.
It's like $200.
Yeah.
You could not beat that. I'm starting to almost doubt that price tag because I doubt you can get something this good for that little.
Well, it all depends because there's also the question of what the body's made of, the materials to actually build the thing. Motorola is usually good about that, but I've held a lot of their phones. You're not going to get anything really premium
it's
feeling.
quite light. It's a LiPo battery too.
Okay.
So that's definitely saves a lot.
Yes, I mean, I feel like most manufacturers will give you still like a plastic or composite back until
they don't cut prices on glass because the glass is Gorilla Glass. We still don't have a plastic display or anything.
Now that really makes me wonder, with an SD slot still included on the phone, if it's water resistant or waterproof.
That's a good question. I'm not seeing anything.
We'll assume no, just for the sake of.
I'm looking at the whole spec list here. It doesn't say as a feature that it's water resistant.
Well, we'll have to buy one and test it on the channel, I guess.
That would be awesome.
That'd be fun. But yeah, what we've covered so far, we've got the displays, a couple of GPUs, some interesting stuff coming out. We got the S24 that comes out at the end of this week. So for us here in the US, we get our S24 drop in 4 days.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the 17th. So we're going to actually follow up later on when we actually have more concrete information about how this new phone fares against the older phones.
None of this stuff that we're talking about has dropped yet. So all of this is speculative. None of this is solid evidence. Most of it's leaked. So none of this is like concrete.
And when this does come out, it'll be featured on the more long-form content.
Exactly.
So
and we'll have a whole conversation about it.
So yeah, that's about everything we have for you today. I thank you so much for any of you who watched this far into the video. If you want to learn more about us, we do have a website, GameReadyTech.com. There's a link to our Discord there. You can view it from the website if you'd like to see what we're doing or just interact with either of us directly. We're pretty much always online throughout the day, so if you want to shoot us a DM, that's also completely fine. Thank you so much for watching. That's all. Bye-bye.